It may look like an intimate moment between a man and his faithful steed, but don't be fooled. This seemingly harmless ritual actually has the potential to turn the horse racing world upside down. It's Neville Heaton's secret to the amazing tale of success he's had with rogue pacer Flying in Style. Neville snatched up the horse at the sale yards in Sydney, saving it from a certain trip to the glue factory. Already the winner of 7 races, Neville knew the horse had talent if he could just get him to settle down and race. Several weeks down the track, he was getting close to despair, when suddenly the magic formula was there.
It was showed to me by a friend of mine that was a psychiatric nurse at Morisset Hospital, and he put me onto it and said that he had a couple of horses in his time that it worked with, and he showed me how, and I thought, oh well, you know, a bit silly, but after a while I got to the stage with this fella that I'd try anything, so I tried it.
The result? 4 wins for more than $8,000 in prize money. Not bad for a $300 investment. It certainly turned heads, though Neville admits many of his colleagues are still a little sceptical. In fact, Nev admits at times even he can't believe it, especially when Flying in Style turns on his occasional rogue act, like jumping out of his yard and disappearing down a busy road during our shoot. A footnote, the horse did make it safely home to his stable. But Neville says he is having the last laugh, and with the city media flocking to Morisset today to tell his amazing tale, he was enjoying a victory of an entirely different sort.
But he's kept Bob Hawke off the front page of the Mirror, so he's done a good job.
Emergency crews were called to the inaccessible waterfall in Glenrock State Recreation Area after schoolgirls raised the alarm at about 2 o'clock. According to the party of about 10 girls from Belmont High, they'd been on a bushwalk when their supervisor, 41-year-old English teacher Greg Wright, had tumbled down the 8-metre cliff. Apparently he'd been trying to rescue Paula Hicks and Sally Gibson, both 13, who'd already slipped over the edge.
Paula came down to get me and she fell down as well, so Mr Wright came down and he pushed Paula up, and then there was a sort of, it was probably because it was slippery and he fell down and he went head first, and then he turned around, he turned himself around, I think.
Police rescue and ambulance crews attempted to reach the man from the ground while the Westpac helicopter edged over the scene to lower paramedics into the gully. The victim, an experienced bushwalker, had apparently suffered fractures in the fall, and medics were able to promptly stabilise him before the delicate task began of winching him into the air on a Stokes litter. Sally Gibson was treated on the scene for a suspected fractured arm. Wright was flown directly to Royal Newcastle Hospital, where he is in a stable condition with a fractured leg and head injuries.
Workers walked out 2 weeks ago after they were told jobs would have to go because their centre lost the contract for Bi-Lo supermarkets. Late yesterday, after a court battle, workers voted to end the dispute and apply for their old jobs back. But Centre Manager David Johnston says he still doesn't have any workers.
We got a resolution of our dispute with the Storemen and Packers Union and our former employees yesterday. Following that, there was a stop work meeting called by the union, as I understand it, for all Storemen and Packers within the state to attend a mass meeting to discuss superannuation and T money, which is an entirely separate issue to the one that we've just resolved.
This is another body blow for RDM. You're only just getting over the transport workers' strike.
Well, it's true to say. We were just recovering from an out-of-stock situation. We've now gone through 2 weeks of very limited activity within the distribution centre. And sure, we're really anxious, not only from our point of view, but also from our customers' point of view, to begin meeting our contractual obligations again.
However, while the dispute dragged on, store shelves emptied quickly, with a crisis point yesterday for many Coles supermarkets unable to offer any tinned or packaged food. With full and overtime shifts hopefully returning on Monday, it's expected stores will have their shelves replenished completely within 2 weeks.
Muswellbrook Police want to set up a youth club and have chosen this former training centre to do so. Juvenile crime in the area is alarmingly high. During the last 12 months, 559 charges were made against people aged between 13 and 25. Unemployment in the area is above the state average, and because the town is relatively isolated, there is little to do at night or on the weekend.
The police here are confident that if we can establish a police citizens youth club, some of these problems will be resolved.
The building has been empty for a year. It failed to meet its reserve price of $310,000 when it was put up for auction. The Electricity Commission told police they could buy the building when they had the money. However, last week police discovered they had competition. Both Telecom and the Roads and Traffic Authority want to purchase the site and have the funds to do so. The Electricity Commission has given police 23 days to raise $310,000. If they can't, the centre will go to the highest bidder.
We will be pleading with union delegates from the local mines for wage deductions, once again seeking assistance from corporate businesses. We have, since last Friday, been pledged $47,000 to make a start.
To set up the youth centre. Already a boxing rink, judo mats and gym equipment have been donated. But ahead is an enormous task. During the next 3 weeks, $13,500 must be raised each day. Jodie McKay for NBN News.
Ted Feely can't say his job was crummy. After all, he made more dough than most of us see in a lifetime. But today he said goodbye to a big slice of his life. Things have changed since Ted started out in his father's bake shop. He used his loaf to rise to new heights, but he hasn't forgotten the days when bakers needed to make a crust.
Well, in our day we used to make doughs by hand. That's unheard of now. Probably the young people wouldn't even know just how to do it.
This morning it was handshakes and hearty best wishes from workmates who formed friendships that never turned stale. Is your workmate going to be missed?
Oh, you can say that again. I really miss him. I've known him for that long, you know. He's just like part of the furniture.
Ted doesn't have big plans for his retirement. A week in Hong Kong, then a look around this big country.
And I plan to do a little bit of tripping around. Love to see Australia.
And that's about it then? You planning to make any more bread?
I don't think so.
Four times world champion Andy Mapple showed his outstanding class in the qualifying for the men's slalom with a scintillating set of runs. Mapple missed the Auski record currently held by Mike Shalander by the single boy. Mapple, skiing with a rope only 21 feet from the back of the boat, made two boys, narrowly missing the third, and he'll start a clear favourite for tomorrow's final. In the women's jump, the three favourites easily qualified for the final. Lisa Simoneau of the United States jumped 34.6 metres to sound a warning she'll be hard to beat. Defending champion Karen Neville of Australia made a fine start with a leap of 37 metres, and she's right on schedule to repeat her performance of last year. But Dina Mapple of the USA, who won Auski 88, landed the best women's jump of the day with a high-flying 37.1 metres to be the leading qualifier. The freestyle event was full of excitement, and Murray Pigden showed that if you get it wrong at the top, there's not much hope of retrieving it at the bottom. Former world barefoot champion Brett Wing set the pace with 1,192 points from his three jumps and used a variety of moves to score points. Dave Reinhardt of America is the king of freestyle and the defending Auski champion, and today he once again was in brilliant form to head the field at the end of day one. Murray Pigden didn't have a good day. After a major prang in the freestyle, he went one better in the open men's jump. Ouch, that hurt. Only 5 men advanced to tomorrow's final, and Jim Clooney upset some of the fancied rivals to make the shortlist. Franz Oberleitner from Austria made the cut with a good jump of 52.8 metres. Mick Neville from Australia was one of the chosen few, and making the final 5 after missing his first 2 jumps was current world champion Jeff Carrington with a leap of 53.4 metres. The leading jumper today was Bruce Neville, the defending Auski champ. With a leap of 55 metres, Neville picked up $500 and favouritism for tomorrow's final.
The Knights had a lot to live up to in their first game of the season, with both the under-21s and reserve grade hammering the opposition. Michael Hagan set up the first try of the match with a pass to David Boyd, who went under the post, taking the Knights to an early 4-2 lead. Although the Knights were in form with the home crowd spurring them on, the Bears weren't about to go into hibernation, with Tony Ray scoring off a ball flicked up by Mark Soden. Minutes into the second half, the Knights hit back as Mark Sargent ran through the Bears line, busting 2 tackles to send Scott Carter into score. A field goal by Gary Worth took the Knights to a 13-8 victory. Teachers at Raymond Terrace High want the Education Department to remove old PCB capacitors from lights and fans at the school, but the Education Department is refusing to do so, claiming the teachers are overreacting and that the capacitors will be replaced as originally planned in August. For the past 2 weeks, teachers have refused to enter classrooms and have held lessons outdoors. Today, the Education Department sent home this letter to parents condemning the teachers' action. The department claims it has carried out all safety requirements and that there is no health risk to teachers or students. However, teachers remain unconvinced after a weekend inspection by the Public Works Department found 21 leaking PCB capacitors. Although the department will remove those confirmed leakages, it refuses to replace all lights and fans in the school. Teachers have called a meeting with parents tomorrow night to discuss their stand on the issue. They say they will continue to teach outdoors until the department gives in and replaces the old capacitors. Jodie McKay for NBN News. Although the Hunter Institute and the university have amalgamated, there are still 2 separate student unions. Today, the university SRC condemned a foreshadowed move by the Hunter Institute Council to endorse independent candidate Lee Morn in the election.
I think it's inappropriate. It's dishonest in what it says about the student body here, and there certainly seems to be some sort of hidden political agenda.
According to the University Union, the endorsement is unconstitutional and does not represent the views of every student.
But to support any political candidate as an SRC is completely inappropriate. An SRC's prime directive is to represent the students of its membership, and that means every student of this university. For a body of people to say on behalf of those students that they endorse a political candidate is simply wrong.
The University Union says it has and will continue to support political issues, but never a candidate.
An SRC would condone the actions of a political party which directly represent it on an issue basis, something that was in the interest of students, and would likewise criticise something on an issue basis done by a politician. But at no stage would we endorse a candidate.
Work on the resort will start in a few months on 8 hectares adjoining nudist beach Samurai Point at Port Stephens. Guests weren't taken to the site. Instead, they viewed architects' plans from the comfort of the Roach Racket Resort. The nudist resort is to be called Bardo's, after France's First Lady Bridget, herself an avowed naturist. Once a nudist camp of any description would have provoked outrage, but today even a luxury resort failed to raise an eyebrow.
It's been as if it was a non-event, but that doesn't mean that there hasn't been some response, but mainly it's been positive.
The launch was hosted by guest speaker Professor Magnus Clark, better known to television audiences as the compere of University Challenge. He's also known to lovers of the outdoor life as one of Australia's authorities and a follower of nudism. The $6 million project is the idea of a local couple, Jim and Vicky Punch, who toured European resorts to get just the right feel for the Australian scene. The first stage of about a dozen units, swimming pool and restaurant facilities will be completed by December. 2 other stages will be completed over subsequent off-seasons. And just to give guests a hint of things to come, a lovely young couple recreated Eden in the Roach Resort pergola. Despite the ogling of invited media representatives, Professor Clark said the exhibition did demonstrate society's changing attitudes.
It was a very staged demonstration, but I think the real Australian attitudes to nudity are that Australians are no longer shocked by the nude body, which is a very nice thing because it's actually a very beautiful thing, the human body. Even for old people, even for fat people, even for very thin people, all human bodies are very beautiful. And what they need above all is exposure to the sun. Not too much sun, but a little bit of sun is very good for them.
Witnesses told police the northbound Datsun sedan suddenly swerved, crossed the median strip and ploughed under the rear axles of a semi-trailer heading in the opposite direction. It was over in seconds. The rear tyres chewed the car up, spitting it back onto the median strip and scattering wreckage for hundreds of metres down the highway. The driver of the sedan died before rescue crews could reach her. It's understood she was about 25 years of age from the Lake Macquarie area. One wheel was torn from the truck. It slammed into an oncoming car, causing minor damage. Traffic was slowed as emergency workers cleared the wreckage, but police were able to keep vehicles moving slowly past the scene.
One of Liberals' most marginal seats, the ALP candidate Gary Gibson is claiming victory. Is that right?
That's right, Heather. We've received all the results in from all the polling booths, and after the distribution of preferences based on the information and advice from our scrutineers, which we believe is very accurate, on a 2-party preferred position, I have 51.9% of the vote and Don Cameron 48.1%.
Well, it's still neck and neck before preferences. You think you're solid in that?
Yes, our scrutineers' information is very accurate, and it was consistent in all booths that we were gaining 65-66% of the distribution of preferences.
I understand you're the first non-Conservative candidate who has ever taken the seat of Moreton.
That's right. The seat was created in 1901 and has been held by the Conservatives for the whole period, so it's quite an historic event for us, for the Labor Party in Moreton.
Let's have some predictions, Graham. What do you think is going to happen right now, given the trends?
Well, it's very tight, but early results in Western Australia mean that a little more than I would an hour ago, I'd prefer to be sitting in my seat than Fred's.
But are you talking about 6-8 seat majority?
Well, that was my prediction at the start of the night. I hope it doesn't prove too far wrong, but I'm going to wait a little while longer before I give you a figure of a number of seats.
Fred, I have to note that you're looking a little gloomy.
Well, it's still early times in terms of West Australian seats, but the grab bag of samples that I've got from around the state don't show a pattern which is as good as I would have hoped at this stage of the evening. Now, it's possible that that is not a good indication, but I'd have to have a very poor sample And I don't always feel that lucky in politics. So I think things are looking tight for us. I think the prospects of the sort of swing we need in Western Australia to pick up the additional seats is looking less likely than I'd hoped it to be.
Jim, you've got an update for us too.
Yes, fingernail country, you might say. I wonder what the Prime Minister is thinking. We're going to cross now to reporter Peter Harvey at the Hyatt on Collins in Melbourne, where Prime Minister Bob Hawke and his advisers are watching the count. Peter, how's he coping?
Well, quietly confident, but definitely not cocky. It's a line he's been using for the past 2 weeks, and it's very much the truth. The Prime Minister's upstairs, about 30 floors above me. I'm in the room where he'll be holding the press conference very shortly, within about the next 20 minutes or so, I think. Once the result in the West has become clear, the Prime Minister, as he said earlier during that cross to you, believes that things are going well, but there's no way he will be claiming victory until the situation in Western Australia becomes much clearer. But he's up there with his family, his grandchildren, his daughters, and Mrs. Hawke, and they're watching all of this very carefully.
Gentlemen, what I've come to tell you is that I'm quite disappointed about the National Party vote in Richmond tonight, but I would say to you that now is not the time to concede. I would acknowledge that it will be difficult to hold the seat, but I would not concede it to either the Labor Party or to Dr Caldecott at this point of time. In terms of the National Party's vote around Australia, obviously it was influenced by a number of regional factors. In Queensland, by factors different to those in New South Wales and Victoria, of course in Western Australia. I think overall our candidates have performed very well. They fought a hard, fair dinkum campaign on the issues, and some of them received the support that they deserved. Others, I'm sure, would be disappointed. I thank you for coming here tonight. I've got nothing further to say.
Members formed a guard of honour for Tom Davidson and his wife Jess as they made their way up the green for the ceremony. Tom joined Mayfield Bowling Club way back in 1948 and was first elected to the committee in '65. From there on, Tom scaled the ladder within the club and became president in 1975, a position he still holds. He climbed off a hospital bed to be at today's unveiling, a task performed by longtime friend Ray Hendry. Not only is Tom respected for his administrative ability, but he can bowl too, being club champion in '69, '70 and '77. Theo Ward has also had a distinguished career at Mayfield, becoming a member in 1942. Members of the club gave Theo and his wife Maisie a similar tribute. Alan Rees told how Theo was treasurer for 12 years, a director for many a year, and has been the secretary of the club for the past 8 years. Also a good bowler, he was club champion in 1950. The number 3 grassy strip at Mayfield will now be known as the Theo Ward Green.
Today's gathering in Civic Park was a scene played out today throughout Australia. It's the 10th year that Novocastrians have supported the cause. This afternoon the walk was kicked off by New FM's breakfast announcer Tim Carroll. Walkers put their best feet forward on a 5-kilometre or a longer and hotter 10-kilometre sponsored trek around the foreshore, Newcastle Beach and King Edward Park. Money raised will go to a literacy project in Bangladesh, educational aid in Namibia and to help bring water to an Ethiopian province ravaged by drought.